start. Effie, let's go. It's alright if we grab a selfie. Say cheese.
Grid positioning has begun.
3 minutes, 3 minute signal.
All 5 lights are on.
And we go green in Berlin.
Good morning, and it's a beautiful morning here in the German capital of Berlin. We're at Tempelhof Airport. We're at the halfway stage of the season, and this is qualifying for round 8 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. I'm with Jack Nichols, our lead race commentator, and Karun Chandok, former FE and Formula One driver. Yesterday, Jack, was round 7. It was what we expected. Well, it's what we expect from Berlin. A great race.
Yeah, it was really entertaining. Lots of swaps for the lead, lots of positional changes, a really strategy-heavy race after probably one of the most entertaining qualifying sessions we've had in Formula E as well. So a really good day. Let's do it all again.
Absolutely, Jack. Karun, we're going to do it again, but we're going to do it the other way around this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's very unique, isn't it? The world of motorsport, we're running completely the opposite direction on the same bit of track. So it's the drivers have got to think of it as if it's a different venue, I think. You know, you can't, there's nothing carried over in terms of the track layout from yesterday. They've got to treat it as, you know, a new challenge into the car setup in terms of the energy efficiency. So it's a whole new day, a whole new set of challenges for the teams and drivers.
Is there any fear from the drivers that they might get slightly disorientated, I think is the right word I'm looking for, as they go the other way around here in Tempelhof?
I think it's okay because we're only doing 2 races here. I think, you know, a few years ago they did 6 races in 9 days, which proved to be a bit confusing for everybody. I think by the end of the week, I remember speaking to some of the drivers, Stoffel, for example, who said to me, he says, by the 5th or 6th day, you were genuinely a bit confused about which track you were on. But I don't think it's a problem today.
Our podium yesterday, Jack, was Stoffel van Dorn, Jean-Eric Verne, and taking top spot on the podium was Edo Mortara. They had a good day. Who had a bad day?
Well, those 3 launched themselves, well, they were already in championship contention. Van Dorn still leads, just 3 points now ahead of Verne, and then Mortara's there or thereabouts. But Robin Freitz and Mitch Evans were the 2 that struggled. Evans was all right and got some solid points. Freitz didn't get any points at all. And they're 2 teams that are really struggling to get to grips with Tempelhof, and they have done sort of the whole time. It's really quite strange.
It's interesting that, Karun, that some teams find it quite easy, DS Techeetah in particular, to be successful here. Other teams don't.
I don't think they found it easy early on, but they put a lot of effort into it because they recognize there's a lot of points on the table. You know, if you've got a double header, you've really got to focus a lot of energy. And Mark Preston, their team boss, was saying when they came, I think it's season 3, he said, we put a huge amount of effort into it. And when we came back for those 6 races, they were super competitive. So, yeah, it's not an easy track. It's a tricky surface. And it's going to be a hot day today. I think much warmer than we had yesterday, so tough on tyres.
Yeah, it really is. It's really important that Mitch Evans keeps that momentum going. Back-to-back wins in Rome, a podium in Monaco, struggling here in Berlin. His team principal, James Barclay, is with Nicky Shields.
He is indeed. James, let's talk about the performance of the guys yesterday, because actually, although qualifying perhaps didn't go to plan, he didn't get into the duels, actually both drivers really had some great pace in the race. I think Mitch moved up 4 places, Sam Bird moved up 8 places.
Yeah, that's correct. You know, again, we had really great race pace, and that's kind of was really important. That's ultimately where we get our points. So we're really pleased with that. Clean races from both guys. Maybe with Mitch, we probably could have even optimized a bit further, but a great result from where we were. So that's the aim as always.
But having said that, today is a bit of a different story. FP2 didn't go quite so well. You guys were down towards the very bottom of the timings. When we came here earlier, the team are very busy making some changes to the car. What's the plan going to be for qualifying, and do you think you can turn things around?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Formula you just have to be calm, right? And we clearly, it's quite clear in FP1 and FP2, we weren't quite in the window. FP1 a bit better than FP2. We made some changes, and you have to try these things. We're trying to find that sweet spot and take the big step forward. You don't want to necessarily stay where you are. So for us, it's important to kind of try and find those increments. we tried something that didn't quite work as we intended, so we're going to go back to something we feel more comfortable with. And most importantly, we know even if you can't get through to the duel phase, if you can, fantastic, that's where we want to be. If you can't, you shouldn't panic, because it's about the race that counts.
And what's the general vibe amongst the garage, amongst the team?
Well, we're hungry. We want to get results, and yeah, of course, when you've had not a perfect FP1 and 2, you always coming into quali. It's always ideal to have perfect prep and be top of the timesheets. Everyone would be lying if that wasn't the case. But it's how you respond, and that's really important. It's not how you finish. It's how you finish your last session. It's how you finish the day that's important, and that's what our focus is.
Well, always good to chat, James Barclay. Good luck for qualifying. Radzi, over to you.
Robin Frain, second day of the doubleheader here in Berlin, but yesterday you started P20 and finished P12. How did you analyse that race?
Well, the race, actually not too bad at the end, because we've been struggling yesterday. Qualifying obviously wasn't great. Had traffic first lap, I did a mistake in second, so you start basically last. Race pace wasn't so bad at the end, but the day is another day. So we've been struggling here last year, and it seems that we have the same issues again. Can't really get it together. It's not great. Need to turn things around now, and hopefully for better qualifying.
These are sentiments you touched on yesterday. Has any changes been made overnight?
Yeah, obviously it's a different way around, so everything is different again on setups and settings on software-wise. We just can't really nail it yet. We're changing quite a few things now. Hopefully we're going in the right direction.
In terms of yourself, we can see from your body language it must be quite frustrating. Is that a difficult position to be in?
Yeah, it's very frustrating, to be honest, because you know that the entire season you've been quite strong, you've always been up there, and then you go to Berlin and you're basically never, you're not there. So it's very frustrating, but it's very difficult to turn things around, especially Formula E. You don't have a lot of time, and if you have like, a 2 or 3 day event, then you have time to dig deeper in those little things we're having. But we don't. We're changing a few things, but we just need a bit more time.
We love watching you dig deep. Good luck for today.
Thank you.
Team principal of Envision, team principal of Jag, Sylvain Philippe, James Barclay, two very, very disappointed gentlemen.
Yeah, I think yesterday's race performance, James was right there, because they came through and managed to get 5th and 7th, which was a bit of a damage limitation exercise. You can only get away with those for so long. You've got to start qualifying at the front, which frankly Mitch did, obviously in Monaco. So we're only going back 2 weeks. Today, this qualifying session, I am really intrigued to see where they end up, because there's speed in the car in terms of race pace. They got themselves onto the lead train, but they're giving themselves an awful lot of work before they get to that pack. So yeah, let's see how they get on qualifying.
Well, just quickly, James Barclay mentioned there he's got to get the car in the window. What is the window? What does that mean?
It's about getting the tyres at the right temperature on the surface, not overheating the tyres, and just having the right amount of grip for that one quali lap.
All right, well, go on, Karun. Off you go. Get into your comms booth with Jack, and we will get ready. This is it. This is qualifying for round 8 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship.
So the first qualifying session about to get underway for round 8 of the World Championship here in Berlin. A beautiful day at Tempelhof Airport, the main terminal building there on the right-hand side, the track laid out on the apron on the left. And out in qualifying Group A, we will have Stoffel van Dorn, who is the championship leader, Mitch Evans, 3rd in the championship, Robin Freitz, 5th in the championship, Pascal Wehrlein, Lucas de Grassi, Jake Dennis, Nick Cassidy, Oliver Turvey, Alexander Sims, Oliver Askew, and Sergio Sette Camara. 12 minutes long this session, and they have to set a lap time in the first 6 minutes and then a lap time in the final 6 minutes, but it all basically comes down to the final lap and the battle to be in the top 4, and then you're guaranteed a place on the front 4 rows of the grid, inside the top 8, from which you can fight. And we were just hearing from Robin Freitz. A big, big session this for him and for Mitch Evans, but it's just tough. It's just so tough for them. So I'm interested, Karun, to see what unfolds.
Yeah, I mean, Alexander Sims looked good this morning, didn't he? He was fast in free practice on the front row yesterday, so see how he gets on. Lucas de Grassi in this group as well, fastest in the free practice this morning. Stoffel van Dorn on the podium yesterday. So some drivers who should be amongst the favourites for pole position here today. Verline, Van Dorn and De Grassi all have looked good so far at various points.
Here is Nick Cassidy out on circuit, who has struggled a little bit in the other Envision car as he makes his way around, and the track going the opposite way on this occasion. So that now is the right-hander of turn 5, which is where attack mode will be later on in the E-Prix, and then we come down to this turning and braking left into a right, turn 6 and 7 that Cassidy's coming through now. There you see him swinging it left, then right, and then we come out into what was the first complex yesterday, but is now the last complex.
Long right-hander here, you can see just as the drivers wind themselves round. So Nick Cassidy is probably going to do another lap just to try and get the temperatures, the front tyre temperatures, into a slightly warmer window. It's a balancing act of not putting too much load into the rear tyres, not sliding around too much to take life out of the rear tyres or put too much heat into the rear tyres, but equally just warm the front ones up.
Well, I must admit to have been in with Nick and Robin about 20 minutes ago in their little driver's room having a chat when the engineer came in, and they decided out push was the way to go because the track temperature itself has gone up. It's now 27, 28 degrees on the surface, whereas yesterday it was 20, 21, something along those lines. So we'll see whether they were just maybe lying to me because I was in there, but
no, actually you might be right, because he does look like he's actually pushing on, isn't he? So it is in contrast to what we saw yesterday, and perhaps you're right, with the higher track temperatures, drivers are deciding to just get out there and get on with it a bit more.
Cassidy made the duels in the first race in Diriyah, qualified 6th on the grid, but since then, the last 3 races, he's been 18th, 18th and 19th on the grid. He does a 1 minute 8.275, Nick Cassidy, and Stoffel Van Dorn is slightly up on him in the first sector. Sergio Sette Camera qualified 7th yesterday and now goes to the top of the times, 2 tenths ahead of Cassidy. Pretty much matched Cassidy in sectors 1 and 2, but then found a couple of tenths in the final sector. Here's Stoffel Van Dorn.
Yeah, mid 1 minute 7s, I think is what we're looking at here in the early laps of the session, and then they probably get down to the low 1 minute 7s as they get towards the second round. Van Dorn sliding his way around the penultimate corner. Now the long right-hander as he accelerates up towards the line and moves across to the right-hand side to get the shortest distance, the timing line, and he does go into the 1 minute 7s. So 7.5 for Van Dorn at the top of the times.
Yeah, half a second quicker than Sette Camera. Cassidy and Askew, the other drivers to have set lap times. Sims has just left the pits. Turvey slots into 5th place, but he's doing a prep lap, as is Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche. So a few different drivers doing different things. France has done a reasonable middle sector. Here comes Jake Dennis out across the line, and Dennis cuts the timing beam. He goes second fastest, less than a tenth away from Stoffel Van Dorn. Robin Freitz were on board here with driver's eye. He comes towards the line, and where is this going to put Freitz? He goes quickest, a 1 minute 7.448. So that'll be a little bit encouraging for Envision. De Grassi now out across the line, and he has gone to the top of the times, a 1 minute 7.356 for the Venturi team. Oliver Turvey has done the fastest first sector of anyone. He's a tenth down after the second sector, but these lap times are going to fall and fall. It feels like we've got quite a lot of track evolution already.
Yeah, he might get a bit of a slipstream actually from the Oliver Askew's car in front of him as they come out of the final corner. So let's take a look as both drivers come up to the line, and Turvey's gone 5th. So Sims in the meanwhile has gone 3rd fastest, and it's super close, isn't it? The top 3 under a tenth between De Grassi, Freins and Alexander Sims. So Stoffel Van Dorn needs a bit of improvement on his next lap, doesn't he? If he wants to be safely through. The top 4, of course, from this session go into the dual stage of qualifying.
Sette Camera's done a good first sector here. He is now coming down into turn 7. We'll get his middle sector split here, and he is now 4 tenths down. So a mistake somewhere in there in the middle sector for Sergio Sette Camera, which is the quick left-handers at 3, and then the right-hander at 4, and then the right-hander at 5.
Van Dorn's on a really good lap here, Jack. He's done a fastest first sector for himself, nearly a tenth and a half up on Di Grassi. We'll see if he can hold it as the rest of the lap unfolds. We can see Sete Camera comes across the line, only 9th for him at the moment. Askew, can he improve? He's on a personal best so far across the lap. Van Dorn, I can tell you, has lost a little bit of time in the middle sector, but they're all improving now. Freins is improving, Jake Dennis is improving as Askew goes across the line to get 9th.
This feels a little bit like you want to get into the pits as soon as possible because and change your tyres and then have a couple of hot laps on your second set is how that feels to me after that session, because Di Grassi has now found 3/10 in the first sector, so it feels like the more laps they're doing, the more time they're finding currently.
Yeah, I think the track is gripping up and it's evolving as the session unfolds. At the moment, Mitch Evans is on a good lap. Freins bit wide, and he might have bought this lap and come in the pits actually, because yeah, he has. So he was a bit too wide on that one. He's in though. He's in the top 4 at the moment. Evans across the line now. What does this do for him? And he goes second. That's a much better performance from Jaguar. They'll be somewhat relieved for that lap.
So now we've got the top 4 separated by less than a tenth of a second. But of course, it'll all really matter in about 5 minutes' time when everybody's doing the final laps. Here's a look at Stoffel Van Dorn coming through turn 6. Right up to the wall. Through the left. Before setting up for the right. Tremendously close, that.
Yeah. So these final 4.5 minutes, Jack, it's going to be absolutely crucial for Van Dorn, isn't it? You know, he's the man in the thick of the championship battle. You know, Di Grassi's looked really hooked up around the circuit.
Yeah.
It was quick this morning. The car obviously working well. We saw Mortara winning yesterday pretty convincingly. And, you know, I think for Van Dorn, these next 4 minutes going to be massively important.
Ooh, bit of a slide from... Ooh, fairly hefty hit on the wall there for Di Grassi.
A hefty hit. Watch the replay here. Big slide. And he hit it with both axles, it seems. And watch the steering wheel. It is straight. So I don't think the steering is gone, you know, out of alignment. But that was a decent whack.
Yeah. 59 races since Di Grassi's last pole position.
Yeah, car is okay.
Yeah, okay, copy. So yeah, good first stint.
Okay, car is okay for Di Grassi, and he ends the first stint quickest on a 1 minute 7.356. So Di Grassi, Evans, Freins and Sims at the moment are the 4 drivers that would be advancing through to the duels. Eliminated would be championship leader Stoffel Van Dorn, along with Jake Dennis, Turvey, Verline, Askew, Sete Camera and Cassidy. But we've got a long way to go. Well, we haven't. We've got 3 minutes and 20 seconds, but you take my point. Cassidy went out a lot earlier than everybody else. He's already starting a lap now, Nick Cassidy. There's Florian Modlinger, whereas everybody else looks like they're waiting in the pits to do an out and a push at the end of this session.
Verline's got a bit of work to do, hasn't he? You know, nearly 4/10 away from Di Grassi's time. That's a big margin for a short track like this, actually. You know, again, 4/10 may not sound like much, but that's a decent margin to find. Cassidy's had a good first sector here, so let's see if he can keep together for the rest of the lap. I mean, I think the track is ramping up as the session unfolds. The drivers are getting more used to it as well. The drivers are getting, you know, their eye in. That's what the first run is about, is just getting yourself into a comfortable place, get a banker time on the board. And now on this second run, normally on a second set of tires as well, they do tend to swap tires to make sure they get a cool set for the next run. They want to make sure that they get this final lap. So Cassidy now up to the line, and he does go second. So good improvement for him there.
Yep, lost a little bit of time compared to Di Grassi in the final sector, but a little bit better for Nick Cassidy, and he's going to get another lap. He will now get a cool-down lap and then a chance to go again, whereas everybody else is only going to get the 1 lap right now, as Sergio Sete Camera is just starting his flying lap, coming into turn 1. So it's an interesting one from, well, no, he's doing a build lap, isn't he? That's what he's doing. So he's doing an out lap and now on a preparation lap to try and get the tyres in the right window, and then he will do his fast lap at the end of the session along with everybody else. So we're in a minute of lull before it all kicks off in qualifying Group A. with Degrassi, Cassidy, Evans and Freitz, the 4 drivers going through at the moment. Nick de Vries getting ready to jump into the car, but it's Lucas Degrassi for Rocket Venturi who's quickest at the moment, Nikki.
So we've just seen Lucas Degrassi leave the pit lane. It was actually a bit of an unsafe release as Robin Freins was coming down the pit lane at the same time. So I'm not quite sure if there will be any investigation into that. The other thing worth noting is at the end of FP2, despite Lucas Degrassi being the quickest in the session, he actually came back in the debrief and said he thinks he can get even more out of the car. He was struggling with a little bit of oversteer, so they still made some setup changes, which has clearly paid off in this session. Eden Mortara came in after FP2 and said, nah, let's leave it. I'm really happy with my car. Back to you.
Okay, well, Degrassi is the driver who is quickest at the moment as we are about to start the final flying laps. So all eyes on the timings, all eyes on the tower on the left-hand side, all eyes on the running clock down at the bottom, and all eyes on Evans' hands as he comes into turn 1. 3rd place in the championship at the moment, Mitch Evans. If he can get through into the duels, I think he's going to be utterly elated as he comes into the left-hander now of turn 2.
So now heading down, let's listen in to these next couple of corners. A little bit of a lift there for turn 4, a little bit wider than he would have liked perhaps from that inside curve. Let's see if he can get into the apex of 5. That car is working much, much better than when we saw it this morning. He was struggling for rear grip, but I tell you what, there's fastest personal best sector times all over the timing sheet at the moment, Jack.
It's Stoffel van Dorn who's done the fastest first sector. The second fastest first sector has been set by Oliver Turvey, so he's flying. Evans is not looking particularly strong. He's a 10th away. He's not actually improving on his own personal best. Cassidy checks the checkered flag and slots into 2nd place. Here comes Evans, big slide as he comes out of the final corner. I don't think it's going to be enough for Evans here to advance. He's 3rd at the moment. Stoffel van Dorn is flying. 3 tenths up on Degrassi's time. Van Dorn goes fastest. Evans is now on the bubble. Freitz jumps up into 2nd. Wow, huge lap from the Envision driver. And Evans is shuffled out. He's not going to make it through to the duels. Verline is 9th. The Porsche's nowhere. Dennis jumps up into 7th place. Oliver Turvey comes through and goes 7th. Turvey out-qualifies Dennis, Sete Camera and Pascal Verline. Another great effort from him. But Stoffel van Dorn through. The big news for the championship, well, the bad news for the championship for Porsche is that they're out. Mitch Evans not making it through again. He's going to be on the 5th row of the grid. Lucas Degrassi does make it through for the Venturi team. But really, the big kind of surprise is there at Envision.
It's just I think the toe is, I've reproduced my own toe.
So Robin Freitz makes it through. 5th place man in the championship, needed a big qualifying performance, and he's got it.
Yeah, great result for him. The big shocker's got to be Verline, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Absolute shocker for him. Now he's going to start basically on the penultimate row of the grid. Porsche's home race with 2 German drivers. That is not what they wanted to see.
Evans 5th again. Here's a look at the James Barclay's reaction, and again, close, and still 5th, where basically he'll start where he started yesterday.
Yeah, and that's not disastrous, is it? You know, compared to where they were in free practice 2, it's not great not getting the duels, but starting 5th means they've still got a good chance. Considering their race pace was so good yesterday, they have genuinely got a chance. Don't forget, Van Dorn was 12th on the opening lap yesterday, and he got through the podium. So if you got race pace from 10th, they can make their way into the top 5. That's okay for them.
So we will be getting on with qualifying Group B in a few moments' time. But here's the look at the results after qualifying Group A. Stoffel van Dorn, Robin Freitz, Lucas Degrassi and Nick Cassidy. Cassidy making it through in the other Envision racing car, which I hadn't actually noticed, honestly, until just now. Evans, Sims, Turvey, Dennis, Sede Camera, all eliminated. I hadn't even realised Cassidy had made it through into 4th. I was focused on Verline and Evans not making it through, but both Envisions through. I hadn't realised.
Must have been that pep talk you gave them in their driver room.
Exactly.
This is it. You're going to be back in that driver room before every race, every qualifying now.
Yeah, exactly.
You have your own seat in the room.
Exactly. Well, let's head down to Envision. Radzi's there.
We're currently joined by the team principal of Envision here. And Philippe, job well done, 2 men safely through.
Yeah, better than yesterday for sure. A lot of hard work overnight. It's mostly around the tires here. Clearly, we were not really in the right window yesterday, and some cars seem to, achieve that a bit easier than ours. So, but we got there ultimately. So it seems, yeah, a lot better.
And Sylvain, yesterday you were very honest about the problems that Envision have been having. This must be a nice situation now to be in.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's more for the team and the drivers, really. Like, we all work so hard. We prepare so much, especially we had such a horrid weekend here last year. We were leading the championship arriving here and we lost it in this place. So we put extra hard work for this race to make sure that we can do better. So yesterday was a big disappointment to really not make a big step. It's coming today. Let's see what we can do in the race.
And just very quickly, Robin Freins yesterday, P20 to P12, so we know he can battle.
Yeah, race pace has been strong. We have our race pace is even slightly better at other tracks, but we are still very strong here. So in theory, we should, if we start in a good place, we should be okay.
Sylvain, Philippe, thanks very much.
Thank you.
So, qualifying Group B about to get underway. It is Jean-Eric Verne, Eduardo Mortara, Andre Lotterer, Nick de Vries, Antonio Felix da Costa, Sam Bird, Sebastian Buemi, Oliver Rowland, Max Gunter, Dan Ticktum and Antonio Giovinazzi. And as far as the title contenders are concerned, it is that man there, Jean-Eric Verne, second in the standings, 3 points behind Stoffel Van Dorn. So he needs to make it through to the duels, otherwise Van Dorn has a big chance of extending his lead at the top of the championship. But of course, also out in this group is yesterday's race winner and pole sitter, Eduardo Mortara for the Rocket Venturi team. Sam Bird there for Jaguar as well. So qualifying Group B underway. Antonio Giovinazzi is headed straight out onto the circuit. And the Dragon racer qualified 19th yesterday. No, 18th, excuse me, yesterday, which was his best qualifying performance in Formula E for the man from Puglia, in the south of Italy.
It's odd, isn't it? He just hasn't seemed to have got his handle around the the Formula E car over one lap. His teammate Sergio Settecamera has generally been a little bit ahead of him, and in fact yesterday did a great job to get into the duels. Didn't manage to repeat that today. As we see, Nick de Vries, his Mercedes EQ, the reigning champion. He's I mean, what's going through his head, Jack, do you think? Because he's obviously seen his teammate go to the top of the times. When you look at the championship standings, Stoffel's got 96 points at the moment. De Vries down at 40, less, he's got. Ooh, let's see, Giovinazzi lock up, manages to make the apex, but yeah, for De Vries, he knows that there's a car there. He's seen the other side of the pits deliver a car quick enough to get passes in Group 1. There's a benchmark, there's a reference time. He's got to do it, hasn't he now?
Yeah, struggling with the balance yesterday, De Vries. And that was, whereas Van Dorn was a lot happier with it. Here comes Giovinazzi, a couple of goes turning into turn 5. Get his middle sector split in a moment. He's the first driver on a lap. He comes down into 6 and 7. Again, same rules apply as with qualifying Group A. 6 minutes, you've got to get one lap in, and then second 6 minutes you get your other lap in. In reality, they just sort of do one run and then do another run. As Giovinazzi comes out of the final corner, out across the line. And his first lap time of the session is a 1:07.865. So not too bad that from Giovinazzi, although the lap times the track's getting better all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Expect the lap times in this group to be quicker generally than the ones we saw in the first group, because the track has got more rubber, it's cleaned up a little bit. Ooh, that was a little bit wide, wasn't it, there for that Sebastian Buemi in the second in this. Sorry, it was Gunther.
Yeah,
running a bit wide there out of turn 5. Don't know if he touched the wall or he got away with it, but so yeah, both drivers trying to put their first times on the board. Well, all these drivers coming out. Just seen coming out of the pits is Antonio Felix da Costa and Jean-Eric Verne. They've waited quite a long time, haven't they, to go out?
They have. So what are DS to Cheetah up to? Across the line, we have Buemi and Gunter. Gunter does a 1 minute 7.6, a tenth quicker than Sebastian Buemi, but are DS to Cheetah just going to go out and run for the remainder of the session, get one lap in within 6 minutes, and then just keep going on that same set of tyres? Cassidy is under investigation for not following the technical instructions, so not sure what that relates to, but we'll try and get to the bottom of that. Lotterer has gone fastest, a 1 minute 7.4, 500ths quicker than Bird. Here comes Eduardo Mortara, yesterday's race winner, and he does a 1 minute 7.2, 2 tenths ahead of Lotterer, but then De Vries immediately goes quicker. That's much more encouraging for the reigning champion. So yeah. Ian James's team to the top of the times again.
Yeah, De Vries, he'll be very, very encouraged by that. You know, I know we expect to generally see the second laps be faster, but that first banker run, if you can get a really solid, good time on the board, it gives your mind an opportunity to just relax a little bit. You've got less pressure on you to deliver the lap in this final part, as we see two DS to Cheetah teammates now heading through turn 2. It's Byrne in front of Da Costa on the road. We'll have a look when the sector's time start coming up in terms of who's ahead in lap time. There's nothing in between them. 7 thousandths of a second in the first intermediate times as they slide their way through turn 4. I think it's quite interesting the way they've done this, actually, because Da Costa's got Byrne in front of him, and as a driver, it's quite, you know, it's quite nice chasing a carrot. You know where you are as a reference, and it will, yeah, it'll help him a little bit. We'll see the second sector times. He's much quicker, isn't he? 6 tenths faster in the middle sector.
Yeah, it must have been a mistake in there for Jean-Eric Verne, because that's 4 tenths slower than other people have managed as well, and 6 tenths slower than Da Costa. Here they come towards the line. Gunter's now done a fast sector 1. Da Costa only goes 6th quickest. Jean-Eric Verne follows him through, and Verne remains 10th quickest. So
that's put the pressure on Byrne, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's ramped the pressure on him for his next lap, as we're watching Max Gunther come into turn 6, 7, and he's done, as you said, Jack, good first sector. I mean, the times are going to constantly be improving as the drivers get their eye in, and the track is getting cleaner and cleaner as Edo Mortara has improved as well. I mean, there's quite a few drivers, in fact, improving at this stage.
Verne's mistake was at turn 4. 4 times in 7 races, both DS to Cheetahs have made it through to the duels. Gunter now goes up into 3rd place in the Nissan Edams car. Neither Nissan has made it through to the duels just yet. Bird across the line in 5th place, 1.8 seconds down on the rest of the field. He lost 4 tenths in sector 1. His middle sector was okay, and then a few more tenths in sector 2. Mortara now fastest, a 1 minute 7.098, back ahead of Nick De Vries with 5 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock.
So to Cheetah, the ones to watch now, aren't they? They're the ones who they've really got to do a lap. I believe they're coming into the pits, so it's going to have to be a very quick turnaround to get them, if they are changing tyres, to get another set of tyres on and get back on track.
Yeah, I think they should have enough. It was more how late they went out. They obviously didn't feel the need to pound around doing other laps out there. So they just went out, did their 1 lap right at the end of the 6 minutes, and then came back into the pits. So interesting decision from the DS to Cheetah team, but they come back in. They will have enough time now because they won't be leaving the pits till about 3 minutes to go, 2.5 minutes to go, something about that. Nick De Vries is under investigation for not stopping at the weighbridge, so that's why he's in trouble. We've got 4 minutes left, and Bird gets pushed back into the garage. 5th place again for the Jaguar as he goes back in, and that's the driver's eye view of reversing into a garage.
Right, so De Vries could potentially lose his time here, couldn't he? Because if you've not gone to the weighbridge, it's generally a slam dunk, really. So we'll see how this unfolds and what the stewards do. But yeah, that's one of your standard slam dunk rules, really, isn't it? You know, going to the weighbridge or missing the weighbridge.
Yeah. You ever missed the weighbridge?
Don't think I have, no.
Oh, great.
No, I don't think I have. I did get in trouble at Le Mans one year where, when pulling off the weighbridge, I dumped the clutch a bit too fast and sent the scales flying, so which the officials were not happy about, and they came stomping down and told my team manager no uncertain terms that they were not happy about it. But
was it on purpose?
No.
Oh, you just got no clutch control.
Well, we were in a bit of a rush to get the other. We were going to swap drivers, I think, for the last run of quali, and we were in a bit of a rush. So there you go.
Right, less than 3 minutes to go now. At the moment, advancing through would be Mortara, De Vries, Gunther and Lotterer. The big surprise would be that man, Jean-Eric Verne, 10th at the moment for DS Techeetah. So it's all or nothing on this lap. It's kind of all or nothing for everybody as we look at the back of the
Formula E car.
Yeah, I know. I can't work out what car that is. Oh, it's the Rocket Venturi, isn't it? With the hashtag stand with Ukraine, of course. I should have spotted that. As Eduardo Mortara gets ready to leave. Andre Lotterer, they're in 4th place as well, so his Porsche looks a little bit more hooked up. The Dan Ticktum Neo out there too.
Verlines was just super confusing, wasn't it? In that first part of qualifying. Really, really confusing. As all the remaining drivers are now heading out of the pit lane. Let's see what... So Giovinazzi, it doesn't look like he's pushing on, does he? So perhaps he's opting for a build lap. I mean, Giovinazzi on that first run is actually ahead of Verne, which you wouldn't have put money on.
No. Not unless you wanted to lose the money. A minute and a half to go.
You would have won it if you did it.
Well,
if you
good
were going to
point.
bet on the first run.
Good point. But the only reason you would have bet on it is if you wanted to lose it, because you wouldn't have thought it was going to happen. Anyway,
moving on.
Gunther's done a good lap to be in there in 3rd place. If he can replicate that, I think that would be great news at his home race for the Nissan Edams team. And here they come out across the line now. Looks like they're going to be the first drivers to start a lap as they come down towards the first corner. There is Gunther in the 22, Buemi in the 23. Oh, wow, that was fast in from Gunther. I didn't think he was getting around that corner.
He's very committed on the brakes on the way in. You have to brake and turn into that first corner. Not as much as they had to yesterday in the opposite direction into the turn 1 there, but it's still a big challenge to steer the rear of the car and keep it calm as you go into that apex through turns 3 and 4. Bit of a lift there for turn 4 as they get into the apex of 5. Another one where you're braking and turning and the wall comes back at you a little bit, sort of pitches up on the exit as you head now towards 6 and 7. Buemi is ahead of him on the road. Where are they on the sector times? Now, Gunther is slightly quicker, isn't he?
Yeah, but Gunther is a little bit away from what he's managed previously. De Vries is on a reasonable lap. Mortara is on a good first sector. Giovinazzi's first sector is not too bad. Sam Bird is 3/10 away in the first sector alone from Eduardo Mortara. Lotter has done the fastest middle sector, so this is about to get busy. Buemi goes 8th. Gunther remains in 3rd. Here comes Nick De Vries in the Mercedes. 2nd currently. Goes quickest, a 1:07.080. Can Mortara get ahead of that? Yes, he can by 0.3 of a second. Huge lap from Eduardo Mortara. Here's Andre Lotterer. He goes up into 3rd. Gunther's on the bubble. Roland up into 4th. Gunther's knocked out. Can anybody stop Oliver Roland? Here comes the DS Techeetah of Jean-Eric Verne. He's almost half a second away. Verne, the 2nd place man in the championship, might not be getting through to the duels. Here he comes across the line. Oh, he slots into 4th. 0.07 of a second. Antonio Felix da Costa now out, and he pushes Verne out. Da Costa pushes Verne out of the duels. Mortara, De Vries, Da Costa and Lotterer, the 4 drivers that will advance. Verne and Evans will be on the same row of the grid on row 5. Roland, Gunther, Bird, Giovinazzi, Buemi and Ticktum, the other drivers. But that is big for Jean-Eric Verne. 2nd in the championship, 3 points away from Stoffel van Dorn, but won't be going through to the duels, whereas... And there's a big lock-up from Oliver Roland down at turn 2, whereas his title rival, Stoffel van Dorn and Eduardo Mortara, will be.
Yeah, Roland, that cost him a bunch of time, didn't it? So down in 6th for him as we ride back into the pits. Sam Bird down in 8th, so he will start either 15th or 16th on the grid. But you're right, Jack. The big story there is Jean-Eric Vergne, title contender, knocked out.
Well, here's a look at the results of qualifying Group B. Eduardo Mortara, Nick de Vries, Antonio Felix da Costa and Andre Lotterer, the 4 drivers that will advance through to the duels. Jean-Eric Vergne, Roland Gunter, Bird Giovinazzi, Buemi Ticktum missing out. So, Lucas de Grassi now getting ready to head through into the duels. Very, very interesting that da Costa managed to get ahead of Jean-Eric Vergne. It looked as though Vergne had managed to squeeze in by 7 thousandths, but the big thing, Mortara's advantage. Mortara's advantage is huge, 3 tenths.
But going back to yesterday, Mortara and Van Dorn looked like the 2 quickest drivers, didn't they? I mean, they finished 1st and 3rd, and Vergne did a great job to slot himself in between them. And again, they're the 2 at the top of their respective qualifying groups. So, yeah, I mean, the duels are going to be fascinating. Yeah, because yesterday, actually, we came away from the qualifying groups with the Porsches being quickest.
Yeah.
From the group stages.
Yeah.
And then we got to the duels, and it fell apart for them. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out now.
So, well, let's hear from the DS Techeetah boss, shall we? Thomas Chevauche is with Radzi.
Joined by the team principal at DS Techeetah, Thomas Chevauche. Thomas, that was dramatic. 1 man through, 1 man out, but not necessarily the man that we thought.
Yeah, it was dramatic. It's so tight on that track. It will be an incredible race. It's so tight, but yeah, Jeff did a tiny bit mistake. Then he lost maybe 1/10 and it's enough to be out. Antonio is through, so we have 50% through. So we still have a good chance for the duels.
And in terms of the actual race itself, so for Jeff, he's 3 points away from Stoffel Van Dorn. Do you think this could potentially affect things?
Definitely, it's better to start in the front. We saw yesterday that Stoffel start from 10th, I think, and finished on the podium with us. So there's still plenty of opportunities for the afternoon.
And just one final question. Commentary were talking about the fact that you guys came out quite late. Was that a strategic decision?
Yeah, it was a normal plan. Everything was fine, no problem.
Good to know. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well, joining me now is the Porsche team boss, Florian Modlinger. Florian, obviously we've got, I guess, 2 different stories on each side of the garage. Let's talk about Andre Lotterer managing to get through into the duels again. That makes it 8 out of 8.
Yes, it's amazing. Very good job from him. The only driver left who made it every qualifying to the duels. Was really tight, but we are happy that he's again in the duels.
Right, well, good luck, and hopefully Pascal Wehrlein can claw it back in the race. Thanks very much.
So it's very true, actually, that comment about Andre Lotterer, still the only driver to have made it through the duels every time. We're just catching the end here of Eduardo Mortara's quickest lap, coming out of the right-hander at turn 10 and out across the line, which was a very impressive drive from Eduardo Mortara, the man who took pole position yesterday. So, we are going to get underway with the qualifying duels for round 8, the Shell Recharge Berlin E-Prix, and it's Lotterer versus Van Dorn, da Costa versus Freitz, it'll be de Grassi versus de Vries, and then it'll be Cassidy versus Mortara. The winner of those goes through the semi-finals, the winner of that goes through the final, the winner of that begins round 8 on pole position and scores 3 points to boot.
That's some good matchups here. There's some really, I mean,
it's great.
Cassidy Mortara, based on what we've seen so far this weekend, you'd have to say Cassidy's a slightly clearer favourite. But the other 3, it's impossible. I think it's genuinely impossible to really pick a favourite going into it.
Track temperature now up to 31 degrees as well, so that's going to be interesting whether those who have... so, for example, Andre Lotterer has just been out in qualifying Group B, so his tyres may be a little hotter and may struggle with a bit more overheating than Stoffel Van Dorn's, and certainly I think if Van Dorn beats Lotterer, that might be a reason that Lotterer suggests to us. But this is the championship leader. 2 pole positions this season, Stoffel Vandoorne. And he is going to be going for another one. Let's go down to Nikki.
Samba, talk us through what's going on with the car, because, I mean, we saw you actually move up about 7 places yesterday in the race, so you've got the race pace, but qualifying not quite there.
Yeah, we can't seem to understand how to switch on the front tyre around the circuit, whether we're overheating it, underheating it. What makes the car fundamentally turn mechanically is what we're suffering with. So on both the quali laps, just have terminal understeer sector 1, and then you've got too much work to do by the time you get to sector 3. So disappointing, starting, you know, mid towards the back. So not where I want to be. Makes it very difficult for the race. And again, you know, coming away from this weekend with smaller points potentially, but not where we want to be.
All right, well, good luck for the race anyway. Thanks very much, Sam.
It's time now for the first quarter-final duel. There you can see them lined up at the end of the pit lane, ready to get underway. Quarter-final 1, Andre Lotterer in the Tag Heuer Porsche. And he is going to be going up against the championship leader, Stoffel Vandoorne.
Qualifying is all about being the fastest, put your best performance in one lap, be the fastest, start first. There you go.
I'm fast because I'm in the zone, I'm focused, and I'm talented.
Here we go then. They won't be racing absolutely wheel to wheel, but they'll be on track at the same time. And it'll be Lotterer ahead of Vandoorne. Vandoorne leaving the pit lane now. And this is going to be, because this can decide whether you start on pole or 8th. That's how crucial it is, and that's how big the swings can be. You can be on pole or 8th, depending on whether you win or lose your quarter-final.
Yeah, absolutely that. And I think, you know, Vandoorne is driving well at the moment with confidence. But Andre Lotterer, as you said, Jack, he's the only driver who's been in the duels every time. He's got a lot of experience of this one-lap format. And he's just, you can see on the halo there, the purple lights indicating he's switched into the 250 kilowatt mode. You can see that accelerating, stop, accelerate. He's trying to get temperature in the brakes, so when he gets to turn 1, he's got the brake temperature he needs to get it stopped. So yeah, a lot of brake warming and brake preparation going on there by Andre Lotterer.
So Stoffel Vandoorne will then be following him across the line as we get underway with the first quarter-final. Ian James watches on. Who is going to end up ahead? The Mercedes or the Porsche in Berlin. We've gone split screen, and oh, Vandoorne's fighting that into turn 1, and that did not look neat and tidy.
No, he got a lock-up. He got a lock-up going in, and look at him. He's lost 3/10, Jack, in the first corner. Oh, that is a big ask for Stoffel Vandoorne to pull back. Let's see, it's pretty neat and tidy for both drivers through turn 2. Listen in. Both having a little bit of a lift. Vandoorne a little bit wider on the line. And he's not really pulled it back, hasn't he? It sort of stayed there, that deficit of 3/10.
Here they come now towards turn 6 and 7. Vandoorne catches, but only by a smidge. It's still 0.3 of a second. That first corner for Stoffel Vandoorne. Closing in again. He now needs to just try and set the best lap time as well still, because that will determine where he starts, whether it's 5th, 6th, 7th or 8th. The gap extends again a little bit to 0.3 of a second. He's really having a few goes at turning around the final corner, Stoffel Vandoorne. Out across the line. Surely this is going to be Andre Lotterer into the semi-finals. It is. Lotterer goes through. Porsche delighted, but the championship leader, Stoffel Vandoorne, will start at best 5th on the grid for the E-Prix later on. And considering that error, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 7th or 8th.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could see as soon as he went for the brakes there, it didn't have the retardation. And I'll tell you what, Jack, you have to think back what I was saying on the way, you know, on their formation lap, not formation lap, but their lap out of the pits. Lotterer put a lot of focus on the brakes, didn't he? He was stopping, going all the way around the last part, and really focused on getting the brakes in the right temperature. And in the end, I think it helped, actually, because when he got to turn 1, he had the confidence on the brakes that Vandoorne didn't.
Next up, Antonio Felix da Costa, 10th in the championship against this man, Robin Freitz, who is
5th in the championship. These two good chums were teammates at Andretti a few years ago. I don't believe they've actually faced each other in the duels yet so far this season. Da Costa neat and tidy through turn 1. Let's see what Freitz does. Oh, the back end's twitching around as he gets it turned in eventually. On the exit of the first corner, who has the advantage? It's Da Costa by 1/10 of a second. Here comes the DS Techeetah now, winding his way through turns 3 and 4, now down to 5.
So Freitz about 1/10 down so far. We'll have a look as he comes through 3 and 4. Bit of a bump there, the car moving around. Didn't look as settled as Da Costa's car.
But Freitz found a lot of time through those quick corners. He's now just 0.05 away from Da Costa. The gap goes up again to 600ths, but this is very close.
Da Costa hit the inside curve there, the right-hander, now into the final part of the lap. Let's look at the traction. This is where the rear tyres are starting to struggle for grip. Very close to that inside wall. He wouldn't want to get much closer than that. And he drives up to the line. What does this do for him? A 6-1. That's a good effort.
Freitz has got ahead though. Freitz has got ahead as he comes towards the line now. It's close though. 300ths between them. And it's Freitz. Freitz gets through by 100. He will start on the front 2 rows of the grid for the Envision team.
Yeah, good job, good job. Peace, power 7, power 7.
14,000th of a second. That is incredible. Both drivers did actually very good laps there. You know, if you look at their pure lap time, a 6-1 for both of them. You know, that's 4/10 quicker than what Lotterer did
and it was,
on the previous run.
Yeah, 6/10 quicker than Stoffel van Dorn. Quarterfinal 3, Lucas de Grassi versus Nick de Vries. And there is de Grassi, making his way now around the final couple of corners. So the Lotterer versus Freitz will be semi-final 1. Here comes de Grassi now, out across the line. The Venturi driver, his best result this season is 4th. He's been through to the semi-finals on 1 occasion. And here comes Nick de Vries. He has taken a pole position this year, the 2nd race of the season in Diriyah. He's advanced through from the quarterfinals on 3 occasions. Let's see who has the advantage out of turn 1. It's de Vries, but only by 800ths.
Yeah, hardly anything between them there. We're watching de Grassi as he comes towards turn 5. He needs to get the nose in. Bit of a slide is where we saw him touch the wall. He nearly did again there. So gets away with it as de Vries now heading towards that same turn 5. Little bit of movement on the rear of the car as he tried to turn in, but was pretty good. So sector times coming up, Jack. At the moment, we've seen de Grassi go through, but he's a little bit down. De Vries nearly 1/10.5 up.
Yeah, it extends a little bit there too. So here comes Nick de Vries. Here comes Lucas de Grassi out across the line. He's going to set the benchmark. Oh, and de Grassi's lost time in the final few corners. Here he comes. It is a 1 minute 6.508. Here comes Nick de Vries now. Surely he will be advancing through to the semis. And he does. By 1/4 of a second, Nick de Vries is into the semi-final. De Grassi's lap time is quicker still than Stoffel van Dorn. So van Dorn now shuffled to, at best, 7th on the grid.
Yeah, that was a good lap there for Nick de Vries. It's exactly what he needed. It's exactly what he needs at this stage of the championship, to just give himself a bit more confidence to you know, come off this bad run of races he's had in recent times.
The final quarterfinal, Nick Cassidy versus Eduardo Mortara. Here they come now. Cassidy ahead of Mortara. And we'll see what Cassidy can do. Only his 2nd appearance in the duels after making it in the first race in Diriyah. So this will be his, whatever happens, his 2nd best qualifying performance of the season as he comes through turn 1 now, down towards turn 2. Meanwhile, Eduardo Mortara in the Venturi comes down into the first corner. Here, let's see how neat and tidy he is on the brakes.
Bit of movement actually under braking. Didn't have the lock-up, but certainly a lot of movement in the rear of the car under braking on the entry to the corner.
600ths up after the first corner. Now we're on board with Mortara coming into the left-hander of 3. The gap extends a little bit to just under 1/10 of a second. Eduardo Mortara, 4th in the championship, pole sitter and race winner yesterday. It's still less than a tenth though. Cassidy's doing, well, as I say that, it goes up to 2. So Cassidy losing a bit of time compared to Mortara down through turn 5. Cassidy still catching back up a little bit. He's going to set the benchmark time here. Cuts the timing beam. And Cassidy does a 1 minute 6.377. Let's see what Mortara can do through the final corner. He's got a almost 2/10 advantage. It's now a 1/4 of a second advantage. And it is Mortara that advances into the semi-finals. Cassidy's lap timer, a 6.377. So that means that Da Costa will start 5th on the grid. Cassidy will start 6th on the grid. De Grassi will start 7th on the grid. And Van Dorn will start in 8th on the grid. And unfortunate there for Envision, but still one of their best qualifying performances of the season, actually, because France is through. Their previous best was 6th and 7th as far as 2 cars are concerned in the opening race in Diriyah. France has started on the front row before in 2nd position, but not making it through this time, Nick Cassidy, into the semi-finals. So we will move on to the semis in a moment. Lotterer versus France, and then it will be De Vries versus Mortara as he makes his way back into the pit lane now. And we'll get ready for that semi-final duel that he will be out in a couple of moments' time. But important stuff for Mortara. He's 19 points away from Stoffel Van Dorn at the top of the championship standings. And another 3 points would be a big help. So here's a look at where we're at. Lotterer and Van Dorn. Lotterer taking the win, France beating Da Costa, De Vries beating De Grassi, Mortara beating Cassidy. So the semi-finals will be Lotterer versus France and De Vries versus Mortara. As we look ahead to those semi-finals. So we will head down now. Oh, I say head down, like 1 meter from me. So we will head over now to Karun and Nikki.
So Stoffel Van Dorn, let's talk about that lap. I mean, you lost 3/10 in that first turn and just couldn't quite make up the time.
No, definitely not a good lap in the duel stages. You know, I'm actually a little bit surprised I made it through the groups first into the duels, because I hit the wall at some point and bent the steering. So yeah, I didn't do a good enough job, to be honest, in the duel stage to manage to deal with that. And yeah, it was a poor lap, but yeah, we got into the duel stages. We started 8th yesterday, and we had a very good race. So let's see what we can do today.
Yeah, I was going to say, yesterday your race pace looked like the best of anybody. You got pinched, I think, on the first lap down to 12th. You know, how are you feeling about this afternoon? It's obviously a lot hotter, though, isn't it? Yeah, it's a lot warmer, and I mean, this circuit is always about tires and how you deal with that and how you manage the energy at the same time. So you know, I dropped back quite a bit on lap 1 yesterday, but it also enabled me to then build that energy advantage and to come through. So yeah, let's see today. It's a new day, new track, a little bit more difficult maybe to overtake on this one, but I still think we have a good opportunity to come through.
I mean, I think you dropped down to P12 to then get onto the podium. It was a pretty remarkable job. So clearly there is some incredible pace in the car. If you're starting from P8 today, top steps possible.
Yeah, I mean, I needed to be in the top 10. If I can manage to gain 10 places again, it's good. But yeah, let's see. Let's first put the car back straight and do our job, and then I feel confident I can have a good race again.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Stoffel Van Dorn.
And of course, the other news for Stoffel Van Dorn will be that Jean-Eric Verne will be down on the 5th row of the grid after that. As there's a look at the hospitality that has a great view over around turn 2, and a really pleasant place to be watching the action, I think, this afternoon. And we will have a look back at Mortara's lap here, Karun, because it was pretty impressive.
Frijns and Mortara did the best 2 laps there. Only 600ths between them. Mortara a 6.110, Frijns 6.170. He was. There's always a lot of energy, isn't it? There's always a lot of steering inputs from Edo Mortara. It just seems to be his style of driving. Tons of steering lock at turn 2, heading through now the quick corners of 3 and 4. So comfortably flat through 3, a little bit of a lift through 4, over that bump at the apex, and then into turn 5. It's tricky under braking here because the rear of the car always wants to break loose, and quick corrections on the wheel. Into the next couple of corners here, you're braking as you're turning left. So you move across to the right-hand side, try and brake in as straight a line as possible, getting close to that wall on the left, then stop, turn sharply right for this right-hander. Last couple of corners now, and just watch his hands through this final long right-hand corner here. He's really fighting the wheel, trying to put the power down as the rear tires are crying because the temperature's gone through the roof. So I think on this surface, because the car's moving around so much with the high temperatures, a driver like Mortara, who naturally is comfortable with the car moving around, particularly on the rear, is happier to just carry on and deliver the lap time. So yeah, it's clearly working for him here. Obviously yesterday's pole man and winner, and he's going to have another chance today.
Certainly is. The first semi-final will be getting underway in a few moments' time. It'll be Andre Lotterer versus Robin Frijns. But first of all, let's go to Nikki.
Antonio Felix da Costa starting from P5 today. What can you do from there?
Hopefully a lot of damage in a good way. We need some big points. You know, the thing for me right now is I'm just chasing a result. You know, we're so close to having a good result, and we haven't put everything together in a few areas. So some big lessons learned from yesterday, and yeah, just try and, you know, execute it well today, and at least a podium I need to bring home today.
What were the big lessons that you learned yesterday that you can use again today?
Well, to be honest, I think we've learned a fair amount from the other side of the garage. Jeff did a really good second half of the race, and there was a few things that we could have done better, which he did. So we learned from that. Hopefully we can use that today, and we'll be super strong at the end as well.
I mean, John McVan also did a really good job using a fan boost to move into second. Have you been asking your fans to vote for you?
I have, and they've been amazing. And since season 5, I've been having it every race, so I cannot complain about this. Portuguese fans are super loyal, and everyone else around the world who does vote. But yeah, hopefully I can use it well today.
Brilliant. All right, thanks very much. Good luck for the race.
So great to hear from Antonio Felix da Costa there, who will be starting in 5th position. And there is Nick de Vries getting ready to go out. Andre Lotterer waiting to head out as well. And standing right here is Lucas de Grassi. Lucas, take this. Tell me, yeah, how was your lap from your point of view? Where are you going to be 7th on the grid? No, start again. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Groups managed to put a decent lap just to go through, and then in the 250 run I had no traction. I don't know, it's just, I don't know if I put too much energy on the rear axle, or it's so hard to get it right here, and if you don't put the tires in the right window, the car balance is just a disaster.
But you guys have looked quick the whole weekend, hasn't he? Edo had a obviously great result yesterday. You're still in a great place to get a podium today,
Yeah, from 7th, definitely we can fight for a podium, and depending on the pace, you can even fight for a victory. The race is going to be long, there will be a lot of tire drag, and I'm in a much better position than yesterday.
Perfect. Thank you very much for joining us. I'll take that one back. So Lucas de Grassi will be starting in 7th on the grid there. And we're now going to be getting underway with the first semi-final. Here are the quarterfinals, the way they panned out. Lotterer versus Van Dorn, Frijns versus da Costa, de Vries, de Grassi, Mortara, Cassidy. And then the semi-finals, Lotterer versus Frijns and de Vries versus Mortara as they make their way out onto the grid. Andre Lotterer for TAG Heuer Porsche up against Robin Freitz for Envision Virgin, and we will see who will go through to the final.
Yeah, I love the new qualifying format where it's great with the first 2 groups, and then the reward is there going into the duels head-to-head. I think it's a great show and also really cool in the car.
I like the duels because you're just facing one guy which you want to beat so badly, and the track is completely for yourself.
So the car's about to head out. Lotterer versus Freitz. And it'll be Lotterer heading out first of all. It's going to be interesting, this one.
Yeah, these, I mean, these are the 4 drivers who've looked the quickest. I know I'm not trying to state the obvious, but actually, if you look across the group stages as well, they're the 4 that have looked most likely to end up at the front of the grid. So, yeah, let's see how this unfolds. So, Robin Freitz, we've been saying all day long, Jack, haven't we? It's a big day for him to get himself back into that top 4 group of championship contenders, and the fact that Van Dorn and Jean-Eric Vergne aren't here in the semi-finals is a good opportunity for him.
Lotterer has been in the groups every single race, as we've said, yet to make it through to the final, though. Robin Freitz has made it through to the final once in Rome, where he then started second on the grid. Here he comes through the final corners, about to start his lap.
Yeah, he's doing some sort of big stops as well to get temperature into his brakes as he heads around the final corner. Oh, super close to that inside wall. I think he had to make a little bit of a correction there to start his lap, but want to be seeing the cars. Here we go. Lotterer on the left and Freitz on the right. A few more corrections of the wheel there for Freitz as he has a bit of a slide on the way out as well. We'll get to turn 2, but all of that has still meant that Freitz is a smidge ahead, just under a tenth.
Yep, 900ths of a second, Freitz's advantage after the first couple of corners. It grows a bit to over 0.2 of a second now. Coming down towards turn 5.
He's really hustling that car. Oh, he's gone deep. At turn 5, he's gone wide and just sliding the rear of the car. Look at that. Lotterer, that turn 5 mistake there from Freitz has allowed Lotterer to pull some time back at him, and he's still catching Lotterer, isn't he?
There's just a 1/10 of a second between them. Freitz's gap was 0.3 at one point, but that slide at turn 5 means Lotterer is coming right back into the fight, and there's now just 0.04 between them as they come through the final corner. Absolutely neck and neck. Freitz on the right, Lotterer on the left in the Porsche. Freitz has got a bit more of an advantage again as they come to the line, and it is Freitz by 1.5 who gets into the final. Robin Freitz will start on the front row of the grid, just what his championship challenge needed after no points yesterday.
You can see the lap times are getting slower and slower just with the way the rear tyres are, you know, they've been used more, the temperature's higher, the track temp is still climbing, and they've, you know, the drivers are going to have to account for that. They're going to have to think about just managing, we heard Lucas saying earlier, just managing the tyre temperatures as they do these laps now. And you know, if you go out there and drive in the semis or the finals in the same way you drove the quarterfinals, you'll slide around too much. So they're having to just correct themselves a little bit on that.
Nyck de Vries versus Eduardo Mortara next up. On board with the Mercedes EQ, man, he sent it in so hot into one, but he kind of got away with it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see whether that reflects in the first sector time. He was definitely on the edge there, wasn't he? As he turned into that one, and it carried on sliding. Mortara now starting his lap, and we know he's a driver who likes to have the rear of the car dancing around, and he now heads up towards turn 2, and he's up, isn't he? That it did look a bit extra scrappy from de Vries. I think he had to slow the car down a bit more than he would have liked at the first corner.
So, Mortara,
something came off.
Hit the wall on the way into the corner there, Eduardo Mortara. De Vries now has a 1/4 of a second advantage, a deficit, but it's growing. Mortara now over 0.3 of a second up. So the Mercedes of Nyck de Vries struggling a little. It's now 0.4 of a second here. Mortara's advantage. Here comes de Vries across the line. The big question is it going to be quicker than a 6.6, I suppose, because that is the lap time that Andre Lotterer did. It is comfortably quicker, a 6.2, but this lap from Mortara is going to be pretty big, I think. We're on board with him here. De Vries will be third on the grid. If Mortara is able to beat him, here he comes towards the line, cuts the timing beam. Mortara goes through, a 1:05. 0.897, that's such a fast lap.
I'll be interested to see what that bit of bodywork was that flew off as he turned into turn 3 and touched the wall. I mean, hopefully it's nothing too big and heavy, because these cars are all, they're trying to run on the weight limit, and as soon as you start missing bits of bodywork, you go to the weighbridge. If the cars shed a few kilos, that could sometimes be an issue. So trying to see, I can't quite work it out actually. I mean, definitely something flew off there, didn't it? Up in the air. It was.
Well, I think it might have just been advertising on the way in. I think it was sort of the banner on the way into the corner.
Rather than a piece of the car. Okay.
But yeah, so I think Mortara has relatively got away with pushing to the absolute extremes as he now makes his way back into the pit lane. So it'll be Freins versus Mortara. Two drivers with only one pole position to their name, each facing off in the final. Mortara ended a record yesterday of the most Formula E races without a pole position. Here's what happened on the turn into this right-hander. There is a bit of a sticky outy bit there. Maybe he just clips that bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Something sticking up off the wall, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think just some of the advertising. So, yeah, Mortara ended a record yesterday of the most pole positions. The most races without a pole in Formula E. He doesn't have that record anymore. Not actually sure who does, because I didn't get around to looking it up. Here we go. This is where we're at now. The ladder is almost complete. Robin Freins versus Eduardo Mortara for pole position in round 8 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. And that will be the final coming up in a few minutes' time. So next final will be getting underway in the next final. Next will be the final, getting underway in 7 minutes' time. This is going to be fascinating because Mortara, if he gets another 3 points, then that closes the gap down a little more. Then he'd just be 16 points off the championship lead, and another win, and he is right in the fight. Let's go to Radzi.
Well, just a few seconds ago, there was an awful lot of excitement behind me here for Team Envision, because for the first time since Rome, Robin Freins has made himself through to the finals of the qualification. And what a performance that was. And coming into, in fact, Berlin just yesterday, there was a top 4. We were talking about Mitch Evans, we were talking about Robin Freins, we were talking about Jev and Stoffel van Dorn, but after his no points yesterday, he moved himself outside of that. It's all about the top 2 of Jev and Stoffel. So this is Robin's opportunity to potentially get himself 3 points, to potentially put himself really into contention today. And I have to say, Envision, their reaction let us know that despite the confusion about the car's performance, despite the sort of trepidation about what they'd see today, their confidence is absolutely sky high, and there's undoubted belief here in Envision. So once again, we're going to see Mr. Consistent Robin Freins in Berlin, and can he end as pole sitter?
Yeah, very impressive stuff from Robin Freins. So it'll be the Envision driver versus the Rocket Venturi driver in a few moments' time here at Tempelhof.
I really like the look of that park up in the top right corner.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So this is a preview of the final, basically. This is Mortara's lap against Freins' lap.
And I tell you what, in the semis,
yeah, these were their semi-final laps.
Yeah, but Mortara was 7/10 faster than Freins, wasn't he?
Yeah.
This is that's a big advantage, and I don't think there was any obvious mistake from Freins. Obviously, he had to go earlier, didn't he? His semi was earlier, so his tyres hadn't yet hadn't cooled down as much.
This was the big Freins moment on the right, wasn't it? When he
yes,
missed the
turn
apex of 5.
You're right. So there was a mistake. I obviously forgot about that. Yes, turn 5. So okay, so if he tidies that up, there's probably 3 or 4 tenths in that, because there's a decent run on the exit of that towards 6 as well. And I think both drivers were really scrambling for grip here. Watch this bit as they get to the last corner. Just watch their hands as they're trying to put the power down. And they go from understeer to big oversteer, just having to correct the car and slide around in the middle part of that long 270-degree turn 10.
So Eduardo Mortara and Robin Freins will be the 2 drivers in the final. That a little preview of their semi-final laps run together. Mortara was quicker, but eliminated in the semis was Andre Lotterer. Let's go down to Nicky.
The only driver who has been in every duel so far this season, Andre Lotterer. You'll be starting from P4. How was the lap?
Yeah, luckily Robin yesterday didn't make it into the duels, and so I'm the one now. It was difficult today. I'm actually very relieved that I made it into the duels, because free practice was not so easy. FP1 was good, but FP2 will start to become difficult, and the rhythm is really difficult on this track. Find the right break point. It's just such a different dynamic, and we were not so happy with the car today. But yeah, made it through, and then was close in semi-final. But yeah, good starting position.
You were really in that melee fighting for podium positions yesterday. What is it that you need to happen today to have the edge over everyone else?
You just need everything to run right and smooth and be aggressive in the right moment. You know, I think this year we're really playing on a very, very high level. Everyone is driving so well at the top there in the top 5, 6. And, you know, it's really 100%. Yesterday maybe we were 99, you know, and some guys were 100, so then you're not there. So it's really, it's very challenging, but it's tough as well. I mean, we did a very good race, but it was just that not enough. And a few drivers were a bit more aggressive, where we were a bit worried about our energy. And that, was the price to pay to not be on the podium.
Obviously, this is a big race for you guys. Home race for you, home race for the team. You've got lots of big bosses from Porsche here watching you.
Yeah, for sure. It doesn't change the job, you know. We still have to drive as quick as possible in the circle. But yeah, it would be nice to come home with a podium finally.
Excellent. Well, all the best. Thank you very much, Andre Lotterer.
Finished 4th yesterday, starting 4th today. Lotterer.
This is quite interesting, isn't it? They wait. Mechanics are waiting until the last possible moment to put the wheels and tires on, because they don't want the heat from the brakes to go up through the wheel rim into the tire. So yeah, and this is, you know, marginal gains and details that you need if you want to be successful in the championship.
Air temperature 19 degrees, 33 degrees track temperature, a 1% probability of rain. Lovely, very pleasant day here in Berlin. Freins and Mortara will be heading into the fast lane now, and making their way towards the end of the pit lane. There goes Robin Freins. Mortara now making his way out of the pit lane. Freins waiting at the exit. The battle for pole position about to get underway. So this is where we're at. It's time for the final. In qualifying for round 8 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, Lotterer beat Van Dorn, but was then knocked out by Freins. Freins versus Mortara, after Mortara beat Cassidy and De Vries. 3 points and pole position up for grabs. 2 drivers with 1 pole position each to their name. And it will be Robin Freins for Envision Racing up against Eduardo Mortara for Rocket Venturi Racing for pole.
I like qualifying because it's so important to put everything together in that single lap you're doing.
I'm fast because I'm the one doing the least mistakes.
The light's about to go green on the left. Now, out goes Freins. And there'll be a hold. And then Mortara will head out and join. Outlap's key. They've had a bit of time now for these tyres to cool down a little, but they have done a lot of running. recently, because I guess the temperature can stay in the tyres for quite a while, and you're not allowed to cool the tyres down or anything like that as per the regulations. In fact, there was one race in, I think it was Zurich, where there was a huge bridge over the pit lane, and some teams were in the shadow when they were waiting outside, but they had to sort of make up some new rules so that you couldn't wait in the shadow, because that wouldn't be fair on everyone. A very complicated scenario, but there's nothing complicated about it now. Robin Freins versus Eduardo Mortara for pole position for round 8 of the ABB FIA Formulary World Championship. The Shell Recharge Berlin E-Prix will see a second-time pole sitter. Will it be Sylvain Philippe's Robin Freins? Or will it be the Venturi of Eduardo Mortara, Jerome D'Ambrosio's team? What's the answer, Karun?
Oh, I'll tell you in a second. Oh, Freins really scrappy there on the way into turn 1, so that's already put a bit more energy into his rear tyres and perhaps cost him a little bit of lap time. We'll have a look. Here is Mortara on board with him, and he's had a much tidier run through turn 1. 22.43 for the first sector for Freins, and yeah, look at that. That scrappy run for Freins into turn 1 has cost him.
So Mortara has over 1/10 of a second on Robin Freins. He's neater through turn 5 than he was last time in the semi-finals, but the gap grows again. Almost 3/10 of a second to Mortara's advantage. Mortara doesn't know that though, and Freins is closing the gap a little. Here comes Mortara out of turn 5, right up to the wall. The gap grows again, more than 3/10 of a second.
If you were the team, would you tell Mortara to just have a safe finisher's lap, because he's nearly 4/10 up now?
Here comes Robin Freins. He's going to set the benchmark lap time. It is a 1 minute 6.470, but Mortara is going quicker. The gap comes down a little. It's 3/10 of a second. Mortara on the power, a little bit of a slide, but drives towards the line. And for the second day in a row here in Berlin, Eduardo Mortara will start on pole.
They've got great traction and rear stability in that car, and I tell you what, that bodes well for the afternoon.
120%. Et c'est parti!
Mortara is dominating the German capital, and this is another 3 points for his championship challenge. That takes him up to 80, so he's 16 points back from Stoffel Vandoorne. He's starting on pole, and Vandoorne is starting 8th on the grid. We're in for another great race this afternoon.
Yeah, that's a car that's working extremely well, and a driver who has got a lot of confidence. The speed he was able to take on entry into those corners, turns 1, turn 5, where you got to brake and turn and have the confidence that the car's not going to slide away like Freins did, is something that the driver wants on this type of track, in this temperature, on this surface. So it really looks good for Mortara, not just for this afternoon, but I think they've perhaps unlocked something in that car for the big picture as well.
Today will be a better day, says Sylvain Philippe, with Freins starting in 2nd place and Nick Cassidy starting in 6th position for the Envision team. But there's the delight at Venturi. They too have a driver on pole position and De Grassi in 7th place. As Mortara returns to the pit lane. He's kind of in a class of his own at the moment, isn't he? You know, when the laps he's pulling out in free practice, the laps he's pulling out in group qualifying, even earlier on, 3/10 quicker than anybody else in qualifying Group B.
Yeah, no, on this circuit, he has unquestionably been the man to beat. You know, yesterday, it's not easy leading the race because you're punching a hole in the air, and you know you've got all that extra drag, and yet he just managed his race and his pace and his energy superbly.
So Eduardo Mortara waited 5 years for a pole position, and then 2 come along at once. As he hops out of the car, and we'll be hearing from him in a couple of moments. We'll be hearing from Robin Freins as well. And here's a look at the final results of the duels. A reminder that Mortara will be on pole, Freintz alongside him. Third on the grid will be Nick de Vries. Fourth will be Andre Lotterer from the semi-finals. And in the quarter-finals, fifth will be De Coster on the grid. Sixth will be Cassidy. Seventh will be De Grassi. And eighth will be Stoffel van Doorn. And then it'll be Evans and Jean-Eric Verne. Don't forget Jean-Eric Verne, second place man in the championship. He's going to be down on the fifth row.
It's a good grid, this, I think. You know, you're going to have Van Doorn and you've got Van Doorn, you've got Verne, you've got Bird down, you know, towards the second half of the field. He's got good race pace. We saw yesterday. I think and the opening lap is going to be brilliant to see, because both Freintz and Mortara, they're tough racers, aren't they?
Absolutely, no doubt about that. And both, well, they're fourth and fifth in the championship, 6 points apart. So both need these big results to haul themselves back up into contention.
No problem.
And Mortara
no problem, sorry.
securing his second pole in 2 days. Not bad. And we'll be starting at the front for round 8 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. And those 3 points, as I say, oh yes, so they're not 6 points apart anymore, are they? They're 9 points apart, because those 3 points take Mortara to 80. And
is that hot air balloon going to take off?
I don't know. If it is, we should put you in it.
I'd love to go. I've never been in one.
Right. Well, let's hear from our pole sitter, shall we? The man who is going to be starting at the front of the 8th round of the championship here in Berlin. He's with Nicky.
Well, Eder Mortara, huge congratulations. Back-to-back pole positions. What a result.
Yeah, fantastic. It took me 55 races to clinch my first pole position. Now it's 2 in a row. So I'm speechless. Car was amazing. The team did a fantastic job, like yesterday, and yeah, they gave me the possibility to do this one.
So you had a brilliant strategy yesterday, you know, saving up the attack mode towards the end. What's the secret going to be today?
Let's see. We didn't. I mean, already starting from pole yesterday was fantastic. But normally it's very difficult to do 2 in a row, so we're not really planning on having the second one. So now we will do the strategy for the race, but it's another topic, and I'm sure that the team is having something sorted out.
Well, now I'm going to introduce Michael Bruckner to come and present you with the Julius Baer Pole Position Trophy. He's the Senior Marketing Communications Manager at Julius Baer.
So pole position for Edoardo Mortara. And a really strong performance, and what a run of form he's on, Mortara. Won the second race of the season in Diriyah, and then after those 2 retirements, in the second race in Rome and the race in Monaco, it's always going to be a tough one, but the fight is back on. And he'll be starting on pole for the race later on this afternoon, which gets underway in 3 hours' time, the 8th round of the championship, and after that, we'll be at the halfway point of the season. So this is how the grid will line up. Nick Cassidy at the back of the grid, Oliver Askew in 21st, Ticktum in 20th, 19th is Pascal Wehrlein, Sebastian Buemi will be 18th on the grid, Sergio Sedecamera 17th, 16th is Antonio Giovinazzi, then it'll be Jake Dennis in 15th position, Sam Bird will be 14th, 13th for Oliver Turvey, 12th for Max Gunther, 11th for Alexander Sims. Inside the top 10, we've got Oliver Rowland in 10th, Mitch Evans, the 3rd place man in the championship, will be 9th on the grid. 2nd place man in the championship, Jean-Eric Verne, will be 2nd on the grid. Championship leader, Stoffel van Doorn, will be 7th on the grid. And then we've got Lucas de Grassi in 6th, De Coster in 5th, Lotterer in 4th, De Vries in 3rd, and the front row, Robin Freintz and Edoardo Mortara. That's how the grid will line up for round 8 of the championship. Now we can go down and hear from Robin Freintz, 2nd on the grid for the Dutchman.
Robin Freintz, huge turn of events compared to yesterday. You were right down at the back of the grid. Now you're starting from P2.
Yeah, I didn't expect this, to be honest, because we've been struggling yesterday. I mean, qualifying wasn't great. Race was not too bad at the end, but to be P2 in qualifying, I really didn't expect this.
A lot of work must have been happening overnight. I think yesterday you said to your team on the team radio that your car was a disaster. What are you going to say to them today?
Not too bad so far. No, it's we had a lot of discussions yesterday. Also, Nick tried a few things, and it's good to see him in the duels as well. So, but yeah, I mean, race is long. Edo's been very quick. We have a good start position, so hopefully we stay out of trouble and try to follow him.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Good luck for the race, Robin Freins.
So Freins will start second on the grid. This was him getting right up to the wall on the exit of turn 2. And just a note on his teammate Nick Cassidy, because we saw there on the grid he'll be starting at the back of the grid. That's because he changed the E-motor, the gearbox, the inverter, and the DC-DC in excess of limit. So that's just come through. So he has an 80-place grid drop, Nick Cassidy. So he will be starting at the back of the field. So that's a little more disappointing for Envision, but they do have Robin Freins starting second on the grid. So that's the end of qualifying. The race, as I say, getting underway in 3 hours' time. Another really entertaining qualifying session. No dead heats like we had yesterday, but there was certainly some really, really tight moments. In particular, actually, Da Costa versus Freins in the quarter-final was very close. Stoffel van Doorn and Stephen Lane, his engineer, having a little giggle before they crack on with their debrief after qualifying. But so fascinating that we will have the top 3 in the championship starting 6th, 7th and 8th. That's, yes, exactly, 8th, 9th and 10th, I should say. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that fight happens in the middle of the pack, and then whether they can get forward and how far forward they can climb, because they've got some really tough people to fight in front. There's Lucas de Grassi, who was 7th in the championship, 7th on the grid, I should say. In the championship, he is 9th. One podium this year, the second race of the season in Diriyah. And there's a look at the park that the Tempelhof Airport has been turned into. And let's go and get some more reaction from that, shall we, with Vernon and the gang.
Karun, a very interesting qualifying session. Let's see. Oh, he's just on the telephone. There's Jerome D'Ambrosio, the man in charge of the Rocket Venturi team. We're just going to grab him off his phone call. Why not? You know, it's Formula E, everyone's accessible. The big boss, what was the conversation with the big boss?
She's really happy. Everyone's really happy. I mean, for the whole team, it's incredible. Edo's put a magnificent performance. P2 and in the duels, it was just dominating. So that was really great. Now there's a race, so let's focus on that.
No, he does like to go off and hide in the back. He concentrates, he focuses, obviously, which is what a driver should do. But also, he's very calculated in the way that he drives around this track, and he proved that yesterday. An outstanding performance, top of the podium. Is he going to be a little bit apprehensive that he has to match that performance?
No, I think when you're achieving that sort of performance, it just liberates you as a driver. Right. He knows he can do it, and he's going to go and approach it exactly the same way as he did yesterday. Just try his best. We've got a fast car. We're doing a good job, so we just need to take it step by step, and that's what he's been doing. So we're going to continue to try and do the same thing.
I mean, you guys are firmly in this championship fight now, isn't he? He's only 16 points off Stoffel, this, at the end of today, it'll be the halfway point of the championship. This must give you as a team a real bounce in your step into the second half of the year.
Look, I think, yes, you fight for the championship, but, you know, it's like you say, we haven't even passed the half mark. So we'll take it race by race. And I think in Formula E, more than anywhere else, you need to do so, because it changes really quickly. So you need to stay on top of your game, focus on maximizing every opportunities day by day, and then you'll see at the end of the championship where you are.
Jerome, thank you very much. Enjoy this.
We'll let you call Susie back now.
Yeah. I hope he didn't hang up on her. Absolutely fantastic. I think we're going to get Edo. Edo's actually going to come and talk to us, which is great because, like I said earlier on, he does like to go away and focus and get himself ready for the race, because he said yesterday that, yeah, there's a time to celebrate. It is my first pole in a long time, 55 races, I do believe. But here he is. Come on, Edo. It's like deja vu. You stand in the middle. First of all, congratulations. Like Jack said, 55 races and then 2 poles come at once. You're smiling still, but now's your moment to get back and concentrate and focus, because you mentioned yesterday that you want to celebrate this moment, but it's all about the race. It's all about those points.
As you said, it's all about the race, and this is where you score the big points. Obviously, I will not lie, I'm extremely happy because we had a second pole position. It took me 55 races to get one, and now 2 in a row. So, yeah, what a weekend.
But you look like you've got the car underneath you to do whatever you want. You look at the confidence you carried on the brakes, I was saying, when you watch the onboards, the confidence you've got to brake and turn, even when the tire temperatures are going up, it literally looks like you could place the car wherever you want, frankly. So, in terms of the race, the strategy yesterday worked perfectly. You led, basically the only time you gave up the lead when you wanted to with the attack mode. Is that kind of the plan again today? Does the different layout, the fact we're running the other way around, does that change the way you go about racing?
No, I mean, you make it sound too easy.
Well, it looked like you were completely in control of it yesterday.
Thanks a lot. I mean, we are facing really, really tough competition, and so these guys are incredible. The level that there is in Formula E is incredible. So you need to have perfect laps, and yeah, I was kind of lucky to have kind of perfect laps all the time in the duels. That allowed me actually to clinch this pole position. Now for the race, it's going to be another story, because obviously that's a complete different part of our job. Let's say we have to manage a lot of things.
But yesterday, I thought one of the things with the track layout was with attack mode, when you drop back, whoever used it was able to gain the positions. Is it a little bit trickier to overtake, you think, with the layout in this direction here?
Probably compared to yesterday, but if you compare it to other racetracks like Rome or Monaco, it's definitely easier to overtake here. And we're used to have we're used to race on difficult layouts to overtake. Actually, this one is kind of easy. So you need to have more pace than the others, and normally that's the way to do it.
Edo, coming into this race, did you guys know you'd be this good? Be honest.
No. But we were very competitive last year already. It was one of our, let's say, strong racetracks. But I was not expecting actually us to be both times on pole and winning the race from yesterday. So let's see now, on the main one after. I hope we can score good points. We need it. We need to get back in this championship fight, and that's my goal.
I love the fact that you've done nothing but smile since we last spoke to you when you clinched pole yesterday, and then the victory. The blue eyes are shining. They've got to go back now. I keep saying it, but because the person who's in charge of your PR was telling us that you love to focus, you love to sit and just relax and chill and get yourself ready for the race.
I'm a very emotional guy, so when things go wrong, I'm kind of sad and moody, but when things are going well, I'm extremely happy. And this is one of these weekends that, frankly, doesn't really happen that much in a career. It's in such competitive championships. It's so hard, and so yeah, very happy. And now we need to focus for the race.
Enjoy. Congratulations. Awesome stuff. Edo Mortara, our pole sitter for round 8 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Did well, didn't he, Karun?
Well, he's on pole, so yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
exceptionally well.
No, across that run, because you've got to do... There's the group stages, which obviously he was sensational at, but it's the duels, the head-to-head ones, where every lock-up you make, every slight error you make in terms of the racing line, or if you get a little bit wide onto the dust, it has a huge knock-on effect, because you get bumped out. So in those high-pressure situations, to deliver every lap, as well as he did, and with margin as well. It wasn't like 100th here or there. He took it every time by a few tenths. that was seriously impressive.
All right, let's go to Jack and Nikki in the studio, I think.
Not quite in the studio, no, we're actually outside the Jaguar garage. Jack, let's talk a little bit about the championship, because actually the drivers who are really in contention, Mitch Evans, John-Eric Verne, Stoffel Van Dorn, they haven't done so well in qualifying today.
Well,
They're all going to be in kind of the middle ground territory.
That's why this qualifying has gone so well for Evans and Mortara, because they're on the front row of the grid, and then Evans, Van Dorn and Verne are all, as you say, 7th, 8th and 9th on the grid. So not quite in championship order, but they're all in the mix together, whereas Freinz and Cassidy, who are up at the front, are needing to close that championship gap. So it's going to be really interesting to see who can make it up the order better. Because if you've got Verne and Van Dorn, they're separated by 3 points.
Yep.
And who can make the most progress could decide who leads the championship at the end of the day.
And it's such a critical time, isn't it, in terms of the championship? We're sort of midpoint in the season at the moment. So this is really, is this a kind of a bit of a defining race, really, before, you know, we go to Jakarta? It's going to be a very new track, different circumstances. But this is kind of the place where the drivers can really make their mark in terms of the championship title fight?
A lot can be won and lost. I think if you end up retiring from this race, when if those three we were talking about, if they manage to make it through the field towards the front, but Verne gets eliminated or Van Dorn has an accident and doesn't score any points, that can be a huge detrimental hit. As you say, it's literally at the end of the race today, the halfway point of the season, so a long way to go, but we're starting to see the championship take shape pretty clearly.
Exactly, and this is the time when you want to build on that momentum, isn't it? Slight heartbreak, I think, probably for Nick Cassidy, who actually ended up putting in a great qualifying performance, but at the beginning of the day, because he'd had such poor performance yesterday, they decided to completely change the powertrain, and with that, unfortunately, comes a penalty, and he's going to be starting right down at the back of the grid.
Yeah,
he was heartbreaking.
Yeah, he was short on powertrains. He was one short after a crash earlier this year. So they thought, well, we'll put it into the pool because we're going to have a rubbish qualifying session. So we might as well start at the back of the grid. Then he qualifies well. He's at the back of the grid anyway. He'll have stop and go penalties. He won't be scoring any points today, Cassidy. But at least they found something at Envision.
Absolutely. I mean, the pace clearly in the car is very much here. So exciting times for Envision. Vernon, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. If you look at the duels, we had 2 DS Cheetahs, 2 Mercedes, and 2 Envision cars. Is that consistency, Karun? Are we looking at, you know, Formula E leveling itself out?
Well, no, the Envision cars were struggling yesterday, weren't they?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, as Robin keeps saying, they're actually a little bit lost as to why they're quick and why they're slow this weekend at different points. So.
But it goes to show the openness of the championship as well, doesn't it? And the new qualifying format, I guess what I'm saying is it's enabled us to talk about those people, those drivers who are consistently in contention.
Yeah, I think, you know, ultimately, when you look at the championship table, the Van Dorns...
Did you nearly trip then?
Sorry?
Did you nearly trip up then?
No.
All right, okay, sorry.
That's just how I walk. I have a wonky walk.
Sorry.
Carrying on.
Yeah.
I think, you know, when you look at the championship table, those are the ones with the consistency, isn't it? The Vernes, Van Dorns, doesn't matter where they qualify, they're racking up the points. So I think that when you look at Mortara now, he's brought himself into that contention, isn't he? He's now racked up, you know, huge haul of points across. Well, we'll see what happens this afternoon, but so far already big haul of points, and we'll just we'll see if this consistent run from the championship leaders continues.
Yeah, and it also seems like it's been a while since we talk about Nick de Vries from Mercedes EQ, which is really interesting. We'll see how it all pans out. It's going to be a great race. Make sure you join us a little bit later on this afternoon, 3 o'clock local time for Berlin round 8. We'll see you then.
Going in 30 seconds.
On the streets of Berlin at Tempelhof Airport.
Radio check.
1, 2, 3. Loud and clear.
All 5 lights are on. And he sent it!
Good job, good job.
This is brilliant.
Push, push, push.
Bring it home, bring it home.
Van Dorn is going to try and get through